Something is happening in Foxborough that does not show up only on the practice field. It is a first-round pick being tested quietly. It is Drake Maye talking like a quarterback who understands his body is now part of the project. It is a possible explosive target surrounded by strange signals in Philadelphia. And it is Mike Onwenu creating room for something much bigger. Today, this is a real behind-the-scenes conversation about decisions, money, fit, and ambition. Drop a like and stay with me because this board is starting to move. The Caleb Lomu situation is exactly the kind of move that can look simple from the outside. The Patriots moved up in the draft, took a tackle from Utah at pick 28, and now they have to find out where he fits. But inside the building, this feels like a hierarchy test, a depth test, and a test of how this coaching staff views the offensive line. Because let's be honest, teams do not trade up in the first round for an offensive lineman thinking only about a premium backup. New England saw value. They saw athleticism. They saw size. They saw a player who maybe should not have even been available at that spot, and they made their move. That already tells you plenty. The detail is, this roster was not empty at tackle. Will Campbell is stepping back into the starting left tackle role, and Morgan Moses is back for his 13th NFL season at right tackle. So the question inside the building is not whether Lomu has talent. The question is, how do you get the best 5 linemen on the field without messing up anybody's development? That is what made Mike Vrabel's comment revealing without giving everything away. He praised Lomu as extremely coachable, young, big, athletic, and willing to learn. Then he dropped the kind of line that usually says more than it sounds like. The goal is to end up with the best 5 linemen. That is not just coach speak for a press conference. That is a message for the entire room. Nobody is safe only because of their resume, and nobody is locked into one position label if they can help more somewhere else. That is why I really like the idea of Lomu working both sides. During OTAs, the expectation is that he spends more time on the right side, but he could also get reps on the left. To me, the most natural path is a direct battle with Morgan Moses at right tackle. Moses brings experience, toughness, and game awareness. Lomu has youth, physical upside, and the edge of being a recent first-round investment. If that competition is handled the right way, the entire room gets stronger. And when it comes to Will Campbell, I am going to be very direct. This rush to move the kid inside to guard does not match what the Patriots did in last year's draft. This franchise did not take Campbell 4th overall just to give up on him as a left tackle the moment things get uncomfortable. Of course, he has to prove himself. Everybody does. But there is a difference between demanding growth and blowing up the plan before it has had the time to develop. The behind-the-scenes part that matters is this. Lomu does not need to steal headlines right now. He needs to show he can force a decision. If he pushes Moses, covers both sides, and speeds up the competition, the Patriots are already winning before week 1. Drake Maye's press conference started almost like locker room comedy, one of those questions that makes the quarterback laugh before he can even answer. They asked if he was thicker with 2 C's. He tried to dodge it, dropped a funny pause, and the room got that light OTA moment. But for anybody who follows the Patriots closely, the real detail is not the joke. The real detail is why everybody is noticing his body. Maye is coming off an all-pro season, took New England to the Super Bowl, ran 103 times for 450 yards and 4 touchdowns, and was also sacked 47 times. That kind of combination should set off alarms inside any serious NFL building. The arm talent is there. The ability to extend plays is there. The courage to attack space with his legs is there too. But this franchise cannot treat Drake Maye like he is some disposable video game piece. He is the center of the entire project. And when he talks about getting his body back after a long season, building or maintaining weight, and becoming the best version of himself physically and mentally, what I hear is maturity. That is not vanity. That is not about appearances. That is survival. The shoulder issue from the AFC title game and the way it impacted him in the Super Bowl already showed the cost of every hit. If Maye is going to keep being this quarterback who threatens defenses through the air and on the ground, he needs the structure to survive January, not only September. The classic pocket passer comparison does not fully work here. A young Tom Brady did not have to win games with physical contact as a constant part of his package. Maye lives in a different reality. He can punish defenses as a runner. He can turn a broken 3rd down into a 1st down. He can change the way opposing coordinators call a game. But that power only matters if the Patriots know how to balance risk, protection, and offensive design. The strongest part to me was when he said the motivation does not change. Same reasons to come to work, same reasons to win. And that idea of proving to themselves and to the league that last year was not a one-off. That sounds like a leader who understands the pressure behind the scenes. New England does not want to live off a recent memory. It wants to confirm a standard. And if Drake Maye is stronger, more prepared, and still just as hungry, the rest of the AFC has a very real problem to solve. Now the conversation moves into that territory where fans start watching every move from another team like it is a clue left on the table. A Jay Brown in the Patriots has become the loudest off-season saga, and the reason is simple. When a player of that level gets connected to New England, you cannot pretend it is just another rumor floating through the timeline. The read making the rounds is that the situation could only take official shape starting June 2nd, which is why this final stretch feels like a behind-the-scenes move being held back by the calendar. The Eagles can publicly talk about keeping Brown. They can praise him. They can say what they are expected to say. That is normal. But roster decisions tell a different possible story. Philadelphia has spent the offseason loading up the wide receiver room. Hollywood Brown, Elijah Moore, Dontavian Wicks coming over in a trade with the Packers, Makai Lemon picked in the first round, and now Brandon Hayes joining too. That does not happen in a vacuum. When a team that already had Brown and Devontae Smith starts stacking bodies at the position, you have to wonder, is this depth? Or are they preparing for a departure? And it is not only the signings. Brown was also noticeably absent from the schedule release video, which only added more fuel to the feeling of distance between the player and the franchise. By itself, maybe that detail is small. Added to everything else, it becomes part of a bigger picture. For the Patriots, the impact would be massive. New England lost Stephon Diggs earlier this offseason, and Drake Maye needs a receiver who changes the geometry of the field. A Jay Brown would do exactly that. He would not just be a big name to juice up headlines. He would be a true number one target, a physical presence, an explosive threat, a player who forces safeties to respect the deep field and open space underneath for everybody else. A young quarterback coming off a huge season cannot carry the entire offensive evolution by himself. At some point, the franchise has to put elite firepower around him. And this is the part that gets me excited as a Patriots fan. If this read is right, New England is not just waiting around for leftovers. It is circling a specific market, watching for a possible internal break in Philadelphia, and trying to turn the Eagles' discomfort into its own leap forward. That is a front office with appetite. That is understanding that after reaching the Super Bowl, the next step demands calculated aggression. But there is also the accountability side. If A.J. Brown really becomes available and the Patriots are in the middle of that conversation, they cannot move scared. You have Drake Maye right now. You have a growth window right now. And when there is a chance to give your quarterback the most explosive receiver he has ever had in the NFL, Patriots Nation has every right to demand boldness. So tell me in the comments, would you pay the price for A.J. Brown, or should New England protect its capital and take another route? And look at how the behind-the-scenes stuff sometimes shows up disguised as a spreadsheet. Mike Onwenu agreed to a contract revision that cut $7.5 million from his 2026 salary, dropping his cap hit from $25 million to $17.5 million. To a lot of people, that is just a number. To anyone watching roster construction, it looks like preparation. First, separate the pieces. Onwenu is not some random player creating space because he is no longer important. Quite the opposite. He was arguably the Patriots' best offensive lineman last season. He committed only 3 penalties across 1,082 offensive snaps, played 99% of the available offensive snaps, still contributed on special teams, and his durability is almost absurd for the position. In 6 NFL seasons, he has missed only 3 games, and he has started New England's last 38 games, including the recent Super Bowl run. So when a guy like that adjusts his deal, the question is not, are they moving on from him? The question is, what door are they trying to open? The answer could go 2 ways, and both are heavy. The first is the conversation already dominating the fan base, creating flexibility for a possible A.J. Brown trade. If the Patriots are trying to absorb an expensive player, every dollar organized ahead of time matters. This kind of move does not guarantee anything, but it fits a franchise that knows major opportunities rarely arrive with everything perfectly lined up. The second path may be even more internal, more quiet, and just as important: Christian Gonzalez. He is entering the final year of his rookie deal, set to make $4.8 million this season, already eligible for an extension this summer, and the market for an elite cornerback could climb past $30 million per year. When Evan Lazar looks at the timing and mentions both the possibility of a trade for a high-priced player and a Gonzalez extension, I pay attention. When Darren Hartwell writes that the Patriots have $43 million in cap space, fifth most in the league, but may need every bit of it if they want to trade for Brown and extend Gonzalez, I pay attention to that too. This is the kind of decision that separates a satisfied franchise from an aggressive one. You want to arm Drake Maye? That costs. You want to keep a Pro Bowl cornerback in the middle of his rise? That costs too. And if New England believes it is entering a real contention phase, it cannot always choose the comfortable path. Onwenu is still a core piece. The difference is that his contract may have become a key to something much bigger. Maybe it is Brown. Maybe it is Gonzalez. Maybe it is the attempt to have Foxborough ready for both conversations at the same time. But one thing feels pretty clear. Nobody moves this kind of money with this kind of player just for cap sheet decoration. There is strategy behind it, and Patriots Nation is right to keep watching. Put it all together and it feels like the Patriots are living through a heavy behind-the-scenes off-season. Lomu becomes a future test on the line. Maye shows he understands the physical price of carrying a franchise. The A.J. Brown story keeps hovering as an opportunity too big to ignore. And the Onwenu adjustment opens up questions that could change the roster. An offensive weapon, a Gonzalez extension, or both paths being prepared at the same time. That is why I am saying it. Foxborough is not sleeping. It is calculating. If you want to follow every signal in this rebuild with a Patriots Nation lens, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell.